It's just damn good business if we can make the heart part of our culture, part of the expectation, part of the way that we work with one another and with and for our clients and customers, or whatever terminology you use. That's where all the magic comes from. And it has an impact on every aspect of the business, even on the value of the business, the actual value of the business. Warren Buffett was interviewed on the Motley Fool website a while ago. You know, they're stock advisor guys, right? And they asked Warren to describe, I'm sure he's been asked this question a million times, the question was, how do you account for your great success? I mean, here's the guy who's, probably the most successful investor in companies on the planet. How do you account for that? And he said the usual things you'd expect him to say about looking at the competitive landscape and looking at the balance sheet and looking at the management team and all that. But then he said, even when everything looks great on paper, he said, I have to sit down in the same room with the CEO, and I have to look into his or her eyes. And there's something very specific that he's looking for. Here's what he said. I look into their eyes and I try to figure out whether they love the money or if they love the business. If they don't love the business, I can't put my money into it. If they do and I buy the company, he said, then my job is to make sure that I don't do anything that kills that love of that business. Now, I know this is not hard science, but here's his 15-second answer, and the word love comes up 4 times. And he goes on to say that the reason that's so important, he said, if I look into the eyes and I see the dollar signs and I kind of hear the cash register ringing in the distance, he said then it's clear to me that this person is only interested in the exit strategy, how quickly they can put the money in their own pockets and get the hell out of there. And what I'm trying to do, he said, is to invest in an asset that's going to grow in value over time, and that's not going to happen unless the love is there. So this is not abstract, this is not touchy-feely, this is not some kind of a warm, fuzzy idea. This is, as I've said many times already, just damn good business. The question for all of us in this room, again, regardless of your position or title, is this a part of the way that you work? Because what Warren Buffett is saying here is that the culture in very large part determines the value of the company. Now, here's the way we typically think of culture. It's a word that we use loosely. We don't give it a lot of thought. We know that there's a culture and all of that, but we don't really get very conscious or intentional about it. So let's look at culture from a couple different ways. The way we typically think of culture, if I ask you to picture your organization, right now, just picture your organization, many of you picture something like this, right? The classic org chart, the classic hierarchy. Now, this does not tell the whole story. I mean, obviously you have, the all-knowing, all-seeing eye at the top of the organization. This is the person that wields the greatest amount of power, and it all flows down from there. So really all the typical org chart measures is power, authority, position. That's it. But if you want to measure something else, if you want to measure what's flowing through that system, it doesn't look anything like this. In fact, most organizations look more like something like this. So if I ask the question, for example, who do you go to for information? You see something like this. Now that all-knowing, all-seeing eye, that guy right there, is now not quite as important in that question. So really what it comes down to is, what questions are you asking about your own organization? And those questions that you're asking come out of, what is it that you want to create?